Greetings all, and welcome to Lucas Brews. In today's video, we're going to be doing an inbox review of the PST 1/72 scale KV-2. So without further ado, let's have a look at this kit.
So we'll start out by having a look at the box, which features a very nice, looks like a postage stamp kind of trim border with a wonderful painted rendition of a KV-2, and it appears to be driving past some ruined, abandoned bunkers, and it's got all these nice scratch marks, so it's obviously taken a beating, and it's got that typical Soviet massive weld marks and rough kind of finish to it, which looks, I think, really cool. Then we've got the titles on the bottom, so the usual PST logo. The title for the kit, it refers to it as the KV-2 Dreadnought Heavy Tank. Not sure if Dreadnought is a historically accurate term for this kit, or if it was ever referred to as the Dreadnought by the Soviets or the Germans, but I think I'll forever know it as the King of Derp, so that doesn't really matter too much. And of course we've got a kit number of 72017 and a 1/72 scale badge there. On the side here, we've got a picture of one of the schemes included by the looks of things, along with contact details for PST. Their details about them being made in Belarus, which is interesting. Don't get too many kits made from them. And a little caution here saying that while you're gluing or painting, keep it away from flame, and also provide good ventilation, unless of course you want to explode, in which case do it by the fire. On the top here we have a suitable for ages 14 to adult, which I think is a little bit old for a model kit starting out, but then again I did grow up my whole life thinking modeling was just for adults. And then, of course, more contact information and a little thing that says this kit does not contain cement and paint. So I suppose you can put this by the fire and it won't explode, but as soon as you introduce the paint and the cement, it will go bang. And nothing on the back of the box there, just the plain cardboard. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the box, which looks pretty cool. And we open it up, and of course, the parts were originally in this plastic bag, although I couldn't help myself and I did open it to have a little look. But they would have all been in that originally. Then we've got our instructions, which we'll have a closer look at in a sec. And it looks like we have about 5 different sprues here of varying sizes and different colours. I don't believe it's like a matchbox kit in that it's intended for you to not paint them. I think it's just for whatever reason they've done it that way, which is a bit odd. But anyways, we'll have a look at the sprues next, but we'll start off with the instructions here. So on the front of the instructions, we have a little bit of history about the KV-2 and its development. A few specifications for the vehicle, including its size, its engine details, its armament, and the crew. Then we've got a little guide to the KV-1 family, and it's also sort of a blurb of their other products, which is quite cool. I do like that it shows the development the series of tanks went through, which may do a video on separately at some point. And opening up, we have our sprue map, which sort of goes across these 2 pages at the top, along with a key in the corner. And assembly is pretty straightforward and typical. You start off with the sides of the hull being glued to the rear plate and the bottom. Then we've got all of the individual road wheels, which there are quite a few of, which have to be added on. Interestingly though, all the arms are moulded to the side walls of the hull there, so that's saving 1 step at least. But 2 road wheels for each of the suspension arms, plus you've got 3 idlers at the top there, the sprocket, which consists of 3 pieces, and you've got the little mud scraper thingy that goes on the back here, and of course the idler, which consists of 2 wheels as well. Of course, though, I've skipped a step because it's a little bit confusing, but you do have these little brackets there for attaching towing cables. Moving on to step 4, you add the track links, and they're done in hard plastic, which is a little bit unusual for a kit of this era, but still pretty cool. And I personally prefer them over the rubber band tracks, as they're a little bit better detailed generally, and as long as you line them up, they look a little bit more detailed in my opinion. Repeating this assembly on the other side there. And then you have the massive turret, which consists of 2 sidewalls and a back plate, plus a roof. And then for finer details, you have a hatch, which could be done in the open position. Quite a few little handles for helping the crew get around. Looks like a little plate that attaches to the front mantlet there with some welding details. And before joining the turret halves though, you should add the interior part here for the gun, plus the shield, and then a little kind of attachment point at the front of the shield, which then houses the massive gun. On the back of the turret, you then have a machine gun, plus a massive door for accessing the rear. On the back here, we've got some towing hatches or D-shackles to sort of add to the towing mounts there, and then we're attaching the hull, which looks like there's a few bits that need to be cut out for the KV-2 in particular, and once that's done you can add the turret. There's a strange sort of circular piece here which I'm not too sure the function of. I believe it may be to lock the turret into place, but not quite sure. And then we have quite a few other accessories, including the exhausts, the toolboxes, looks like part of the antenna system, and then these little towing cables and their little shackles to hold them in place. And for the front here we have a armored shield which sort of connects the upper and lower front plates there, the lights, and also a driver's hatch and the machine gun and a sort of plate for the bow machine gunner. On the back of the instructions you've then got a marking guide, which is pretty simple, but given the fact that these tanks were either in green or had a winter camouflage applied to them, which is sort of explained here, then that's pretty simple to follow. There are markings included by the looks of things for one vehicle from the 7th Guards Tank Corps on the Bryansk front in July 1942, and it's part of the 3rd Guards Tank Brigade, so I apologise if I've mucked up any of those names. And then this other one appears to be done in white and is from winter 1941, so not too much in terms of markings there. Instructions are a little bit cramped, and perhaps an extra page and some larger sizes for these steps would have been better, but for the most part assembly looks relatively straightforward, and as long as you take your time and make sure you don't miss any steps, it should be okay. As for sprues, we'll start off with our hard plastic tracks, which as you can see are done in some larger segments to make it a little bit easier, and then for the curved portions you have these individual links. I know a few people aren't big fans of these, as if you make a mistake you can have a really obvious gap, and of course it's a bit fiddly compared to rubber band tracks. And honestly, I may be tempted to 3D print replacements, given that I've already designed a set for the KV-1, and they would be accurate for this version of the KV-2 as well. But out of the box, pretty impressive still, and I do like the level of detail and the thickness on them, and it all looks pretty good. Hopefully it would line up quite accurately, but as I've said, probably won't use them, so I won't be able to tell unless I've obviously built it. But yeah, tracks look pretty good. Next, in light grey plastic, we have the lower hull, and we've got one piece here for the floor with some raised details for the access or escape hatch there, and an access port here for the engine. Pretty basic, but at least it's cleanly moulded. Then we've got our idler wheel here and our drive sprockets. They all look quite nice and neatly moulded with some good details. I do like the raised riveting on the sprocket, although because of the way they're attached it looks like some of the teeth might not come out very nicely from that sprue, but otherwise they look pretty good. Got a really nice cover here for the sprockets, looks like 2 different options depending on the tank that you're doing. Then we've got all of our road wheels. These look like the back parts there, which won't be as visible, and then we have the front sections here which look quite nicely done. Got another part of the idler wheel here with again some nice raised details for the ribbing on the inside there. And we've got our rear bulkhead here with the attachment points for the D-shackles. And finally the sides of the hull with some pretty nicely done moulded in suspension arms. They're a little bit thick, but honestly you're not really going to see them, and I think it's quite nice that they've done it that way because it obviously simplifies assembly. And for the most part looks pretty good. It doesn't appear to be any ejector pin marks in any visible spots, and although there are a few little bits of flashing, especially around these rounder, smaller bits, for the most part looks pretty good. And obviously you've got your mud scraper here, I missed that one, but it looks like it's going to need a fair bit of cleanup with that seam line. But otherwise look pretty good for these parts here. The second light grey sprue we have here are for some of the extra accessories. We've got our various toolboxes for the sides, and it looks like either for the KV-1 or the KV-2 the gun mantlet there. Got some extra smaller parts here along with various details, including what looks like the machine guns. Quite a nicely done hatch there with some very nicely done interior detailing for the locking system there, which looks quite good. Looks like the driver's vision port, which looks quite decent, along with various smaller accessories. Parts of the tow cable here. Some little armoured kind of plating and shields, which would vary from different KV-1 models. I think they pretty much use this tooling several times for different variants, so a lot of these might not be used, but pretty cool that they're still there if you wish. And we've also got some later war fuel tanks for the sides, along with a few little D-shackles, another slightly smaller toolbox, an attachment point for the towing links, And of course we've got a gun here which is for the KV-1 by the looks of things, as it's a little bit too small for the KV-2. So a few different bits and pieces on this one, obviously not all for the KV-2, but pretty nice that it's still there for your spares department, I suppose. Next we have the upper hull, which is done strangely in a sort of dark green plastic, and as you can see, details are pretty decent. There's a few spots where it's a little bit soft, and there is a bit of a funny texture, which sort of looks more like imperfections to me rather than a proper armoured plating texture, but I'm sure I can do a little bit of work and get something good out of it still. And for the most part though, details are still pretty decent, and they have done all of the details there for the radiators, and some raised hatches there for accessing the engine and the transmission bay in the back there, with some recesses for where the various panels are. And I like that the mudguards on the side here are a little bit thinner, so it might be a little bit easier to dent them or do some damage if you wish, as I know they tend to get a fair bit of damage. And we have this weird kind of circular thing for kind of going around the turret ring by the looks of things, so not sure if that's some sort of extension piece or a locking mechanism, but yeah, a little bit odd. Hope they'll understand it a little bit more when I assemble the actual tank. And finally, we have the thing that makes the KV-2 the KV-2, and that's Stalin's refrigerator and the massive gun that they put inside of it. And as you can see, they've done a really nice job on the turret here, although there is a fair bit of flashing that will need to be cleaned up. They've still done some really nice weld marks, which are a little bit messy, but quite size accurate in my opinion. And on the side here, they've got these little raised details for adding the hatches or the handles there. Little bit of a recessed hole there for the vision port, and then a raised bump here for the pistol port, which looks pretty good. For the front mantlet, we've got some nice raised rivet details, which looks, yeah, not 100%, but pretty decent. Might want to rough up the edges there, as I think these would have been kind of cast molded or something like that, which usually they seem to have a bit of a funny texture to them. Got the massive gun here, which sadly does not have a hole drilled out, even at this scale. So might have to do that yourself, but oh well, at least it looks large enough to be the gun. We've got our handles here, as mentioned. The door for the back of the turret, which has some pretty nice recessed details on the back there, which look quite good. The back plate for the turret with the machine gun mount and some little hatches there, or the sort of hinges for the hatch there. Got these smaller pieces here which go on the front of the mantlet. I thought they might have a bit of a weld texture to them like they do on the box, but they don't seem to, or at least it's pretty subtle. So I may have to do that with a bit of glue or something, but I'll sort that out when I build it. And then we have the roof here, which has some pretty nice details. There's a bit of raised riveting on the shield there, although there is a fair bit of flash that will need to be cleaned up on the side there. Then we've got our gunner's kind of vision ports there on the top, along with the extra vision ports for the side and the rear. The commander's hatch is obviously drilled out so that you can have it in the open or closed position. And we've got some nice raised details and weld marks for the air filter system and another little panel or a hatch at the back of the turret there. And finally, we have the sort of pieces here for the mantlet, including the part here which sort of goes on these little holes there on the inside of the turret to help the gun elevate and depress. And then we've got the main piece here, which the cannon barrel will attach to after going on top of this piece here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this kit in terms of parts. The final thing to look at here are the decals, which are obviously quite old. It appears that the protective sheet is still on top of them, so I might try and carefully peel it away. Looks like it's going to take off the decals, so these may not be salvageable. But it does appear that in pristine condition you'd just get the number 3 and a nice little slogan for the second marking option. I've never done a PST kit, so I can't really say for sure what the decals are like, but the quality on these does seem to be okay, so yeah, a bit of a mystery how they would actually be, but if I could use them I will, otherwise might have to find some spares. So that pretty much wraps up our look at the PST KV-2 Dreadnought. So this kit obviously is showing its age, with a fair few areas having rather basic details and a little bit of flash here and there, but I'm sure with a little bit of modelling prowess and skill you'll be able to get a pretty decent kit out of this one. I'm looking forward to giving it a go, and I do plan to give it a bit of extra special attention, given that it's a bit of a rarer kit. I do believe there are other KV-2s out there in 1/72nd scale. I can think of the Trumpeter one being quite a good one from what I've heard, but it does seem to be a little bit tricky to get, so the fact that I was able to pick this one up secondhand meant I was pretty pleased. I'm also planning to do a full interior using my 3D printer. Seeing as I've already got the parts for the KV-1, all I need to do is design some for the turret, which I'll do, and hopefully I'll cover that as part of my build video when I get around to it in the not too distant future.
So that pretty much wraps up our look at this particular one. I was actually a bit surprised to find out, according to Scalemates, this was released in 2002. It gave me the impression that it was a bit of an older kit. I don't know if it was just the box style or the fact that I did buy it secondhand, and I paid around about 15 AUD for it, which was a pretty good price, I think. I can't think of too many KV-2s in 1/72nd scale that I know of, apart from, I believe, Pegasus and Trumpeter have done a kit, and I'm sure there are a few others, but they don't seem to be very easy to find in Australia, so I was pretty happy to pick this one up. And as of the making of this video, I've actually started building it, and I'm hoping to have a build video out for it in either the next week or two, so stay tuned for that. And so far it's been building up to be a rather pleasant kit, although it does need a little bit of work to give it some extra detail. But that's a video for the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel, as it really helps out. And also consider joining my patrons, who help to pay for not only the kits that I buy, but also the products I use to make them. So a big thank you to them as always. And if you have any other questions or any feedback you want to give me, leave it down in the comment section below. Thanks again, and as always, take care, and until the next video, model on.